Hey there, Louisiana estate planning attorney Paul Rabalais here, and in this video we're going to talk about what's the difference between a succession and a probate. Well, let me get right to it. I get asked all the time, people just, they hear these terms, you read in magazines, got to go through probate, got to do a probate, you hear talk in Louisiana, got to do a succession, got to have a succession. So what's the difference? I'd say the way people refer to them here in Louisiana, there's no difference. Here's the kind of the backstory. We have different laws in Louisiana. They're written different. We have comes from our kind of French civil law. All the other states are different. But the reality is when somebody dies, regardless of where they live, whether they live in Louisiana or whether they live in another state, if that person who died owned assets in their name, like real estate, like investments, like bank accounts that are only in their name, those assets are going to be frozen, and the survivors, depending upon who those survivors are and whether that person had a will and whether they named an executor, but those survivors, those heirs, are going to have to hire a lawyer, go through a court and attorney involved process, because that's just the way it is. It just was determined, I guess many decades ago, that our courts will oversee the transfer of one's assets when they pass away. Yes, a deceased person will likely have IRAs and maybe life insurance and other assets that are payable directly to a beneficiary, but just about everyone, if they own the kind of normal car, house, bank accounts, investments, there's likely to be a probate or succession involved. So here's this succession probate conversation. All the other 49 states, they call that court and attorney involved process a probate. Every state except Louisiana. Louisiana calls it a succession. Why, I don't know. It's just the way it is. Don't argue with it, but that's just the way it is. So now, to make a confusing matter even more confusing, in our succession rules, it discusses probating a will. So as part of the succession process, part of this entire process of collecting someone's assets, determining whether they had a will, determining whether the will is valid, having an executor confirmed to manage the assets, pay the debts, get judges involved to sign court orders ordering that assets be transferred to different people. As part of that overall succession process, one aspect of that is what's called probating the will. Technically, that means the will is filed at the courthouse along with a petition, and a judge signs a court order ordering that the will meets the validity requirements and it's a valid will, and a judge orders that the will is to be followed. So even within a Louisiana succession procedure, wills get probated. All right, ought to be confusing enough, but just the way people talk about it on the street, in the barber shop, in the beauty shop, in the office, on the telephone, when you're in Louisiana, those words probate and succession are really used interchangeably. Hope that helps. Make sure you like, subscribe. We'll talk to you next time.